I stood up to my dad after he struck my mom, but the shock came when he forced her to hit me instead. That changed everything. Hello, everyone. I am 21 years old and I have been wanting to express this for some time. You may notice that I move from one topic to another as I type, as memories come to mind. Tomorrow, February 16th, marks my father's birthday, but I am filled with emotions such as anger, hatred, and resentment. I could share my experience on Reddit in hopes of finding someone who understands and might offer support. I still recall being 3 years old and experiencing physical abuse from my father. He did not only hurt me but also my mother. I am unsure when it began, but I vividly remember his threats, including tying me upside down and burning chili beneath me, hitting me with wet bamboo, or withholding food and water. I would get beaten for various reasons. If I accidentally dropped a glass of water, I would receive a blow to the head. If I ran around the house, that's right, I would be punished. If he was in a bad mood, yes, I would bear the brunt. He consistently took out his frustrations on me and my mom. My mother also hit me, yet for some reason, I do not feel affected by that. Perhaps it is because I am now stronger than her and understand she cannot harm me, or it could be that I can defend myself. However, my father remains larger and can easily overpower me. Just his physical presence is enough to intimidate. When I was 4 years old, my sister was born. The moment she could walk, she became Daddy's little princess. I remember the first time she brought him a glass of water. I stood there, holding one as well, but when he chose hers instead, something inside me broke. I do not recall ever bringing him another glass of water after that. Gradually, I began to distance myself. I witnessed him shower affection and love on my sister, something I never received. In time, I grew to resent her. She was the favored child, the one who could do no wrong. The same mistakes that resulted in punishment for me earned her nothing. If she cried, he would comfort her and apologize. If I cried, I would receive more beats until I stopped. He consistently brought her gifts, and I even had to share my birthday with her, including presents and clothes. He never played with me. After I turned 10, my father's work required him to be away from home. Initially, I missed him, but by the time I reached 16, I wished he would stay away indefinitely. I was never permitted to voice my opinions within the household. I constantly felt suffocated and trapped. Whenever my parents had one of their episodes, I would notice the neighbors observing, yet they never intervened. This made me feel embarrassed about my circumstances and the state I was in. School offered no escape, as I was persistently bullied, had no friends, and was isolated. I continue to be that way. When my sister was an infant, I adored her. I played with her constantly, kept her safe, and would rush home just to see her. I looked after her, ensuring she did not fall off the bed. I remember being the one who witnessed her take her first steps. She would cry when my dad would hit me. However, as we grew older and I noticed my father's favoritism towards her, I began to harbor resentment. I was also punished for her errors. For instance, when she locked my dad's phone with a password and forgot it, I faced repercussions because apparently I had taught her. Whenever we argued, it was always my fault for being the one to start it. Here is where I admit that I was unreasonable. I did bully my sister for that. I physically hurt her until I turned 13, when I finally realized that I was much stronger than her and capable of causing her significant harm. I also did not want to emulate my father, a man who physically abuses his family and loved ones. This does not mean I am seeking forgiveness or anything of that nature. This is simply a part of my past that occurred. I acknowledge it and aspire to be a person who learns from it. I want to break this cycle of generational abuse with my own actions. There were some positive aspects. When I was younger, my father would tell me stories and bring me books and CDs of animated folktales and historical tales. To this day, I sometimes enjoy listening to audiobooks before falling asleep and have developed a habit of reading. When I was 16, one day my father was engulfed in a fit of anger, and something within me snapped. I told my sister, "I will go out to stop this argument." She attempted to prevent me from intervening, but I confronted him, asking why he was hitting my mother. Surprisingly, he did halt his actions for a time after that day. However, one day, for reasons unknown, he dragged my mother into the room where I used to study, handed her a broom, and instructed her to strike me. My mother pleaded with him not to make her do this. I looked him in the eyes, smirked, and said to her, "Hit me as hard as you can." that wiped the smile off his face. That day marked a turning point in our relationship. While in 10th grade, I took my final exam on my birthday. I felt elated because completing one of the most significant exams of my life meant I could enroll in junior college in my preferred field, the arts. I have always had a passion for history, which was my favorite subject. I even achieved a score of 95 on the final. My childhood aspiration was to become an archaeologist. Even though the salary may have been modest, I would have found fulfillment in it. Throughout my upbringing, history was my closest companion and provided me with an escape. My favorite historical figures include my king and the Red Baron. Yet on my birthday, all those dreams came crashing down. Before even wishing me a happy birthday, my father announced that he had enrolled me in the science program, and junior college would commence the following day. I was devastated, to the point that I lost my balance, stumbled backward, and my vision momentarily darkened. I managed to support myself against a pillar, but yes, my hopes and dreams felt completely lost. To be frank, my birthdays have never been joyous occasions. My father would not allow me to attend other children's birthday parties, which meant no one ever came to mine. I had no friends at school. He wanted me to pursue a biology course, aspiring for me to become a doctor like his father, but I chose mathematics to rebel against him. I seldom return home now. Even though I feel lonely, there is a sense of freedom. Recently, I discovered something I genuinely love during my final year of college: game development and Blender. Although I am still a novice, I hope to improve my skills in time. In college, I learned several things about myself. When I or someone else makes a mistake, I experience panic attacks and tend to overreact. I struggle to cope with loud noises. I feel compelled to raise my voice in self-defense. I cannot experience emotions unless they fall within the spectrum between fear and anger. I face difficulties forming emotional connections, exhibiting an avoidant personality. I spend most of my day on my laptop rather than socializing. My raw emotions can be summed up in these feelings. I harbor hatred for my father. I also resent my mother for loving him. Just yesterday was Valentine's Day, and she posted a picture on Instagram of him giving her a rose. This made me furious and filled me with disgust. I also despise myself. I am aware that life can be unfair, and you must cope with the hand you have been dealt, but whenever I attempt to share my story, someone always seems to have a more tragic tale than mine. Just once, I want to be listened to without anyone comparing my suffering to another's. Throughout my life, I have wished for just one thing to be a priority to someone. I crave the warmth of human touch. My room is excessively cold. One day, I will confront my father about my feelings towards him and ask him which nursing home he would prefer to reside in. I will also ask my mother if she wishes to stay with me or with him. In 3 months, once I secure a job and save enough money, I plan to leave him and seek therapy. I suspect I may have minor ADHD, but I am uncertain. Therapy could potentially be beneficial. I simply wish I were not as broken as I currently feel. And if you need another reason to despise my father, he poisoned my dog and her puppies. Thank you for taking the time to read this. Story 2. I met my mom's friend who showed me DNA results. I'm his daughter. After 28 years of my mom's secret, I'm left in shock. I apologize for the way this has been expressed, but I appreciate your patience. My parents have always been kind to me, and I have consistently felt loved by both. I have a sister who is approximately 3 years younger than I am, and she is quite great as well. During my final year of high school, my mother wanted me to have my hair styled by a professional for my senior photos. She drove us to a larger city approximately an hour away so that I could get my hair done by someone she had heard good things about. Upon arrival, she introduced me to a man who was her college friend. She left me alone at the hair salon to speak with this friend. Fast forward almost 2 years. I have struggled significantly with my hair over the past year. I went to a new hairstylist that my mother recommended, but it turned out that the stylist was not skilled. My hair was severely damaged, and I had to start from scratch. Eventually, my hair began to grow back. My mother urged me to visit her college friend for assistance with my hair. She expressed her regret about what happened and believed this man could help me. She provided me with his phone number and said she would arrange an appointment. She invited him to our home to do my hair. Then she left me alone with a complete stranger. The only other person present was my grandmother, who was not fully aware of her surroundings. My mother wanted my sister and me to take an ancestry.com test, which required us to provide saliva samples and swabs. A while later, when I inquired about the results, my mother mentioned that she never received them because she would have had to pay extra and did not wish to do that. A few months later, while I was at my job, my mother's friend, my hairstylist, handed me a yellow manila envelope. He inquired where I was because he had something to give me. I assumed it was some hair products, not that. The front of the envelope indicated that he would like to open it with me, and that if I preferred, I should speak to him first before discussing it with my mother. Since I was leaving work soon, I decided to meet with him. The only reason I felt comfortable doing this was that my mother had left us alone with him previously, and since she trusted him, I figured I could too. I met him at an ice cream shop, and he disclosed everything. He revealed that I was his daughter and that they had conducted a DNA test on me, showing me the results. I was utterly stunned. It felt like an out-of-body experience. He had written a 3-page document about everything and stated that my mother preferred to wait until I graduated from college to tell me, but he could not hold back. My immediate thought was of my poor father, which caused me to break down in tears right in front of him. He handed me a box of tissues while I tried hard to gather myself. My thoughts were that I was unlikely to see this man again, so I needed to obtain important information. He included photographs of his parents in the envelope, along with their full names. I asked if they had any genetic diseases or terminal illnesses. They had none, and I thought, thank goodness, not for them but for myself. Inside that envelope were screenshots of my mother's infidelity and her conversations with this man. She had been sending him pictures and photos of me, saying, "Look at your daughter." He replied that he would never get to hold me and that I would never call him Daddy. My mother responded, "Never say never." She spoke negatively about my dad, claiming that he must have been shooting blanks the entire time. I felt utterly disgusted and betrayed, and I could not understand what this man's intention was in meeting with me. What did he want from our encounter? Now, years later, with my frontal lobe fully developed, I believe he wants to alienate me from my dad. He did not have to show me text messages between him and my mother from recent years, where he expressed a desire for me to meet his family and mentioned telling his mother about me. He also follows my younger sister on Instagram and has been sending her pictures of himself and my mother on trips, along with screenshots of their future plans together. She has been ignoring him and has not responded to anything, while I have blocked him on every platform. When I confronted my mother about this, she dismissed the man as crazy and called him a liar. Then she tried to manipulate the situation by suggesting it was flattering that another man wanted to be my father, claiming I was really popular. What? She labeled him as insane despite my presenting her with all the evidence he shared. Then she told me to discard it and to ensure that no one finds it. I have kept everything. I refrained from telling my dad because I believed it was not my place to do so and that my mother should inform him. I also did not want to communicate with this man or pursue any relationship with him while my father remained unaware. I did not want to deceive him as my mother has been. What prompted me to post on Reddit is what transpired in the past week. I was at the car dealership because my vehicle has been experiencing issues, and I was finally getting it repaired. While waiting, I received a phone call from my dad. He was checking on me and inquiring about my car's status. Then he asked if I was seated and inquired about the name of the sperm donor. I asked him why he wanted to know, and he insisted that I should not answer a question with a question. I disclosed everything I was aware of, except I did not share that my mother is still actively cheating on him with this man. I only recently discovered this due to the random messages he sends my sister at times. My father has been unwell for the last 5 years. He has been undergoing dialysis and is on the waiting list for a kidney transplant. I can see him losing weight daily, and I do not know if I can bring myself to inform him of all this. I want him to concentrate on his recovery rather than deal with these issues. I feel the urge to confront my mother about everything, but I wonder if that would be overstepping my bounds. I want to tell her that she needs to treat my father properly, especially during this difficult time. My father brought it up with her, and she lied. The only reason my dad knows anything is that this man somehow obtained my father's number and informed him about sending me items to the house. When my father asked about the source of those items, I said they were from a stalker. He inquired further, and I explained that the person was a stalker, as he was already blocked by then. I refrained from telling him that my mother instructed me to use that man to obtain further things. I am still being dishonest. I want to tell her that if she wanted to keep her affair a secret for life, she should have managed it better. If she truly cares about my father, she needs to stop the deception. I just do not know how to approach this or whether I should be the one to do it. I simply believe this man must cease his communication with my dad. Oh, during the phone conversation with my dad, he also mentioned that I have another sister somewhere who can no longer communicate due to an accident. He did not mention anything like that in his messages to my sister. That leads me to believe he is a manipulative individual. My mother remains my mother, but I need to learn to love her from a distance.